NASCAR went to the Irish Hills of Michigan yesterday, and even though I missed the first third of the race, I was able to watch the last two-thirds of the race, and it was not a race I enjoyed too much, I'll be perfectly honest with you. Um, so, I've said a lot this season, a lot about the package. The package is going to produce different types of racing, and we definitely saw a different type of race yesterday. There was a lot of just on the gas, barely having to lift in the corners, and that produced the type of racing it produced, which was basically a weird type of Daytona and Talladega, if you kind of think about it that way. There were crazy moments on restarts. That's what this package has been so far. There's been a lot of crazy moments on restarts, and the laps, a few laps after the restart. Otherwise, once it gets into like a 10, 15, 20, 30 lap run, they get single filed out, and it's like really hard to pass in dirty air. And we saw a lot of that yesterday at Michigan, where they would go 3 wide on restarts, 4 wide at some points, making aggressive moves because they can, because the cars are stuck to the ground, and then once they're kind of in line, they're in line unless you have a really fast car. We saw with Kevin Harvick, he had a really fast car. He's able to come through the field. Kyle Busch was stuck mid-pack most of the race, and then at the end he was inside the top 5, solidly inside the top 10 as well. For Joey Logano, he got out front and never looked back. He dominated the race. He led over 130 laps in the race. Absolute domination by the 22 team and Joey Logano. Kurt Busch ended up in second, and some others behind as well, like Martin Truex Jr., Harvick, Kyle Busch, you name them. They finished inside the top 5, inside the top 10. For Logano's second win of the season, his first came back in Las Vegas. It's still 6 winners so far this season. We have Kyle Busch with, I think, 4 now. Brad Keselowski has 3, along with Martin Truex Jr. Hamlin has 2, Logano has 2, and Chase Elliott has 1. That's the winner rundown so far. 14 of the 15 races or something like that have been won by Penske and Joe Gibbs. Only 1 has been won by someone other than that. That's Chevy with Team Hendrick. So it's been a Penske and Joe Gibbs racing season so far, which is interesting because the package was supposed to produce different winners. Was one of the big punchlines, was we're going to have more winners, and we're going to have, drivers, that don't normally run up front. And obviously Chris Buescher has probably been the best with this package because he has run up front numerous times in races, and is probably the one that has improved the most due to the package, but otherwise there hasn't really been much difference other than Buescher and maybe Newman and Stenhouse sometimes putting their nose in the top 10, top 5. But overall, from the race I saw, it was just kind of meh. There wasn't much that happened during the race. You kind of just fall in line. They get single filed out. What yesterday's race was a huge illusion. And basically what the illusion is, hey, the cars are closer, so the racing must be better. That's not how that works. In NASCAR's eyes, if someone were to come turn on the race, they saw the cars that close, then yes, they would probably be like, oh, wow, look how close the cars are. But for people that actually watch the sport and the people that are the fans of the sport, the racing wasn't great unless you like stuff like that. But, it was single file. Some passes were made at some points in a long green flag run. But otherwise, it was like a single file plate race where they would stay wide open. You have to back up to the car behind to get a run if you wanted to get a run. If you jumped out, no one went with you, you were going to fall back numerous positions. A lot of what happened throughout the race was a driver would try and make a move. They'd be better through the corner. They'd make a move down to the inside, but then they would have no drafting help. They would fall back 2-3 positions. They get penalized for trying to make that pass, which is something that really shouldn't happen. Trying to make a pass, and if you don't have the help with you, you're not going to be able to make the pass. All because of a gigantic spoiler. It's like a parachute. You pull out, parachute because of that gigantic spoiler. Slows you down. Unless you have someone behind to push you, you're not going to be able to get up there and try and challenge. And we saw a lot of that yesterday. And just overall, bland race. Nothing happened. And this was talked about to be, this could be like a pack race. Like it could be what we saw at Kansas. But the reason Michigan wasn't like that is because of the groove. The track was repaved in 2012, right around when Kansas and Pocono was repaved. The difference between Michigan and Kansas is Kansas' racetrack is already worn in to where you can go up to the wall. Like, you can race wherever you want in Kansas, and it's fine. You're not going to slide. At Michigan, if you get out of the groove, you're sliding up to the wall, and you're going to be in the wall. that's just how it is at Michigan. You know, there's like two grooves down at the bottom lane. The rest of the track up high in the turns, not used, not gray. It's not black. It's all gray, and it's just not great. I'll be honest. So that's why at Michigan, the package didn't really work that well. It's because Michigan has really long corners. It's a 2-mile racetrack, really long corners. And since you can't really move around in the corners, you can't move high, then you can't move higher than the next guy. You're gonna be stuck in that dirty air the whole time. And Martin Truex Jr. put this perfectly in his post-race interview. He said it was a bunch of trying to just get out of that wake of the car in front of you in the corners, because that dirty air, like we mentioned at Pocono, in the middle of the corners, the dirty air, it affected him so much that the draft did not make it up on the straightaway, which is something interesting because this package, right, with the gigantic spoiler, was made to make a bigger draft. And we saw at the Xfinity race at Pocono, I feel like there's a bigger draft with a smaller spoiler than there was here yesterday with a gigantic spoiler. So that's something interesting, to say the least. Once again, a lot of drivers kind of were outspoken against the package. More so than usual. I think it's starting to get to a point where drivers are starting to be like, we have to say something about this. Obviously, Kyle Busch has been the main headline of all that, where Kyle has been talking about the package sucks, the package sucks. Clint Boyer has somewhat done some of that, where he's kind of said, this package isn't really great, After the race at Michigan, he said it's not racing. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, though, is basically what he said. So he's trying not to come all out, but he's obviously showing that, hey, I'm not a fan of this package. Other drivers like Martin Truex Jr. as well has lately been saying about the package how hard it is to pass. There are a few. I'm pretty sure Kevin Harvick wants to say something, but right now he's pretty mad at his team. For Harvick, he had one of the faster cars at Michigan, and I think he was like the only car that passed Joey Logano in the green flag run. And so he was fast, but on the final pit stop, he took 4 tires instead of 2, while everyone else took 2. Very interesting why Rodney Childers would do that, considering that this was a track position-based race, and it fell into a green flag run at the end. So basically, wherever you were on the green flag run was where you were going to finish. Harvick made up some positions, but overall, he was not up where he should have been, and he should have been battling with Joey Logano for the win. Another thing that happened yesterday was the lanes were horrible, more so than normal. Michigan is notoriously bad for that, especially, last season, seasons prior, where the inside was not the place to be on restarts. However, it was still like that with the big, with the package this season. The inside sucked. One of the first restarts I watched was early in stage number 2, and it was weird because, obviously Joey Logano took the outside, cars were on the inside, right? And on the restart, everyone moved up. They were single file in the top 10 by the time they got to turn number 1. All but one car left the bottom up to the top because they had a hole up, and they were like, well, that's the place I need to be. It was so weird. It was bizarre. It was literally like Daytona Talladega. They just all got single filed out, and they're like, okay, we can ride here. We're fine now. So that was weird. I mean, strange. It's not my type of racing. I don't really like momentum based racing where it's just kind of like you have to be in the draft, you have to time your runs right, you have to do this and that and that. We already have 4 of those a year. 2 Daytona, 2 Talladega. We don't need more momentum based races, okay? I mean, I'm not a huge fan of those. I like seeing drivers have to drive their cars sideways, you have to get out of the gas in the corners, get sideways, run wherever they want, high, low, have to use different throttle inputs for whatever lane you're running, see cars sideways. That's a reason I loved Chicago last year. Chicagoland's a worn-out racetrack. We saw cars, sliding there that day. We saw cars sliding. We saw Larson up against the wall, Kyle Busch down the bottom. We saw a classic finish, and that's a finish that you're never going to see with this aero package. With this type of aero package, the amount of dirty air it produces off the rear of the car, we saw it at Charlotte with Stenhouse, right? He tried to wreck Kyle Busch. After Kyle spun him earlier in the race, Stenhouse tried to come back later in the race and hit Kyle. The problem was he drove it off into the corner, but since they're all basically going full throttle, when he drove it off into the corner, he hit the dirty air and he went up the racetrack. He never got to the rear bumper of the 18 car. That's just how much dirty air there is. So it's just, it's just I don't want to say too much bad stuff because I already have this season. I'm trying not to just be like so negative about it to where it's just like one of those negative people and they're always negative about stuff. It's just not my type of package. I don't want this type of package. I want low downforce. I want some higher horsepower. However, NASCAR said they're not going back to higher horsepower because new manufacturers want the 550 horsepower. So that's a lost cause at this point. But you would think though, because no new manufacturers coming in until the Gen 7's introduced, might as well just go to higher horsepower at this point. I mean, what are we doing? We're just going to 550 horsepower. There's no new manufacturers here. Like, no new manufacturers can make a Gen 6 car the year before Gen 7 comes out. Why not just have 750 or 900 horsepower until we get to Gen 7? What is the point right now of having 550 horsepower if no one's going to join until the Gen 7 is introduced? There's no point to have 550 horsepower right now because it's not even, oh, we're going to allow Chevy, Toyota, and Ford to have their 550 horsepower engines. There's still 900 horsepower engines. They just put a spacer on top of it. It's not a 550 horsepower engine. 900 horsepower engine with a tapered spacer on top of it. So why are we down to 550 horsepower if it's supposed to be, oh, we want it so that new manufacturers, there's no need for it. Because right now it's not producing anything good, and honestly, a horse or an engine that's meant to put out 550 horsepower instead of an engine that's supposed to put out 900, dumbed down to 550, an engine just without a tapered spacer on it, no matter what it is going to be better than one with a tapered spacer on it. There's going to be more throttle response with one that doesn't have a tapered spacer on it, so you may as well just wait. Like, I don't really get the point right now of running 550 horsepower if no one's joining the sport until at earliest 2021. So, I don't know. I really don't know what to say. I just don't like it. It's not my cup of tea. I could tell you that right now. And really, this package has, while it's made some races better, it's not made them astronomically better to where I would want it. Vegas was maybe a little bit better. Maybe. Auto Club was maybe a little bit worse than normal. Martinsville was worse than normal. Richmond was worse than normal. Charlotte, and here's the thing about this package too, is that there are so many times where we get into a long green flag run they can't pass, and then we get a restart. This package's bread and butter is restarts. And what did we see a lot of at Charlotte was a lot of restarts. And all of them were because Joe Gibbs Racing blew a ton of tires. If they didn't blow their tires, there would have been a lot of long green flag runs, and there probably wouldn't have been as much action in that race. I feel like this package really needs a lot of restarts. But the problem is the cars don't crash by themselves anymore. So it's just a lost cause at this point. But we get an off week in the Cup Series. The Trucks and Xfinity are going to be racing in Iowa. That's going to be fun. I love Iowa, no matter what series races there. Always a fun racetrack. It's kind of like a short track and intermediate mix. You can run multiple grooves, tires where they're fast, you're sideways, and it's just a fun track overall. So that'll be fun to watch. And then Cup returns the next week to Sonoma. They're going to go road course racing for the first time this season. We'll see how that does. They add the carousel in Sonoma, so that's going to be fun to watch. And that's going to be the end of Boogity Boogie Boogity, and then we're going to go to NBC after that. So should be interesting to watch next week and then at Sonoma. But until then, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys for the next video.